toddler tantrums versus toddler meltdowns. What are they? How they're similar, how they're different, and some really important things to look out for as your child continues to grow. We all know that anxiety, ADHD, autism, these diagnoses have been on the rise for years, and so some of this information here is going to be really helpful in navigating those arenas. This video is part 1 in an entire series I'm going to do about emotions for our 1 to 6 year olds, so our toddlers and kind of like preschool age. In my next video, I will cover ways to prevent tantrums and meltdown, as well as how to navigate them in the moment. So be sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss future videos. If you guys are new here, my name is Rachel from The Confused Mom. Welcome to my channel. I share baby and toddler product reviews, activities, as well as Montessori at home tips. I have my master's in counselor education. I was on the path to becoming a licensed psychotherapist when I decided to get out of the field after working in it for a decade in various capacities, everything from working with children on the autism spectrum to working with young adults and seniors with mental health issues and addiction. So really like a wide variety of roles. Obviously it's personal to me too. I have a 3.5-year-old as well as a 1-year-old. So toddler tantrums are when we give our 1 to 3-year-old a blue cup and they throw it across the floor because it's the wrong color and they yell and scream, blah, blah, blah. Tantrums are generally short explosions of big feelings where there's screaming, whining, yelling. There can be kicking and hitting in it too, but usually only lasts like a couple minutes, 15 minutes max. And once it's out, your kid is back to normal. Meltdown, on the other hand, is more like a prolonged tantrum. You won't really see whining with a meltdown, that's more like a tantrumy thing, but you may still see yelling, kicking, screaming, throwing, all of that type of stuff. It tends to last longer, so this isn't something that's going to be a couple minutes. It could only last 15 minutes, but the key is after it's passed, your kid isn't the same. They may be exhausted, they may be depleted, they may be shut down, they may be withdrawn. There's definitely like, okay, my kid isn't back to, I don't want to say the word normal, but like if we talk about the polyvagal, the nervous system response, so you have parasympathetic nervous system response, which is your rest and digest. Your kid isn't going back to this. This is your calm, chill, whatever, kiddo. Your creative one. Then you have sympathetic nervous system. This is your fight or flight response. And so this was typically when we see them in that tantrum-y phase. Then above that, on the polyvagal theory, is our dorsal response. And this is when we go into freeze. This is when we go into collapse. This is when we go into shutdown survival mode. And meltdowns tend to have a little bit more of that associated with it. So it takes longer for them to move back down that ladder to rest and digest. So I hope that kind of like gives you a little visual. All day long, we're moving up and down this ladder as kids, as adults, and it's really about how quickly we can recover back to parasympathetic. That shows a healthy nervous system, a healthy response to life. So I'm going to throw up a little picture here, kind of highlighting the differences between tantrums and meltdowns. So really here, tantrums, like I said, are shorter lasting. Your child is still pretty coherent during some of this, so you may be able to talk to them. They may even be able to kind of control their behavior. And there's typically like a clear initial stressor, so the cup situation, and once that's resolved, it's good, we move forward. As toddlers get older and develop more language skills, they typically grow out of tantrums because they can communicate more of what they want or need. Now, with that said, tantrums can turn into meltdowns very, very quickly, especially if you take the approach of ignoring a tantrum. So I never recommend parents ignore their toddlers' tantrums. We don't pretend like they're not happening. That is a very lonely place to be, and I think progresses things to meltdowns far more quickly and more often than is necessary. So with meltdowns, we typically see that they last longer and afterwards our kids feel more stuck or just generally more down. When they're in the meltdown, it's almost like even though they're right next to us, they feel really far away. It's very much a full body response. It's like you're trying to pull them back to earth, but it's just not happening. A lot of the times with meltdowns, whereas like tantrums, there was like a specific stimulus, meltdowns can have a less clear reason of why they're happening, what's going on. And that reason could be like a sensory overload. There's too much sound, too much light, too much touch, too much all sorts of different things. It can also be an underlying imbalance in gut health. So fungal overgrowths, bacterial overgrowths that lead to sensory processing issues or that lead to feelings of anxiety and all of this types of other stuff. But if you have a kid that's like struggling with meltdowns a lot or really struggling to move back into parasympathetic, more often than not, there could be some gut stuff going on. And unlike tantrums where they develop the language skill set and it's done, meltdowns can go on throughout our life because, again, it's a dysregulation of the nervous system that's so grand that unless we kind of figure out how to tend to our nervous system, just having language skills may not be enough. So to make the difference between tantrums and meltdowns concrete for you and kind of give you a little tip for when they're escalating, parent needs the toddler to get in their car seat to leave, but the toddler wants to keep playing. So the toddler starts crying and yelling and throwing their toys because their needs are diverging from what's being asked of them. The parent says, I know you want to keep playing right now. We need to leave, so I'm going to pick you up. I will leave your toys exactly where you left them for you to keep playing when we get back. Toddler cries and screams on their way to the car seat, but at the end of the day, once they're strapped in, it's over within a minute. Now, a tantrum can turn into a meltdown. So say that toddler gets put into their car seat, and instead of stop crying and screaming, they start thrashing their limbs, fighting, being buckled in. They are escalating with their behavior versus coming down. That's when we've crossed into meltdown territory. There's sensory overload. A lot of times you'll see kids, like when they're in meltdown, they're pulling at their car seat. I don't like this, I don't like this. So these are the things that they don't necessarily have the words for yet, but you as a parent can start to look out for. Are they complaining about the sound? Are they complaining about what's touching them? Are they complaining about what they're seeing? Things too bright, too dark? That's a good little tip to keep in the back of your mind when your kid's starting to complain about their senses, that we're moving into meltdown territory and we need to pause as parents. Additionally, if your kid is regularly complaining about different sensory stuff, so like things are too bright, they're too loud, stuff is hurting them when you know it shouldn't be hurting them, like the car seat buckle, or just not liking different textures, that's a sign their nervous system needs some help ASAP. So like earlier I mentioned anxiety, ADHD, this would be kind of that area to really be hyper vigilant about. I would start with like a minimum of 2 hours outside every day, no screens, and quality one-on-one time, which I'll go into more in my next video, which will include strategies for preventing toddler tantrums and meltdowns, as well as how to navigate them when in the middle. So you definitely won't want to miss that. Hit that subscribe and notification bell. Okay, go potty. In the meantime, be sure to go back, check out my Montessori at home tips video. Be sure to go ahead and check out how to get your toddler to play independently video. As always, my name's Rachel. Have a good one.